Welcome to Mindfulness, a space for quiet reflection, honest conversations, and gentle reminders that we are more than the storms we face. There are moments in life when we fight so hard against what is happening that we forget to breathe. We bargain, we resist, we cling, as if holding tighter could stop the tide from rising. But reality has a way of being what it is, no matter how much we wish otherwise. As Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen master, once said, "Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness." I still remember a friend of mine, Sarah, who spent months trying to fix the end of her marriage. She read every relationship book, went to therapy alone, even kept cooking dinner for too long after her husband had moved out. She told me once, "If I just try a little harder, maybe he'll come back." But the harder she tried to rewrite the past, the more exhausted and bitter she became. One evening, after another unanswered call, she simply sat in her kitchen and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." She wasn't giving up on love. She was giving up on the illusion of control. That's what acceptance feels like. It's not weakness. It's not apathy. It's the moment you stop wrestling with the truth and instead allow it to sit beside you. Acceptance says, this is real. I may not like it, but I can live with it. Letting go, though, is a different step. It's not just seeing the truth. It's releasing your grip on what no longer belongs to you. And strangely, when you do that, you don't feel empty. You feel lighter, like walking out of a crowded room and realizing you can finally hear your own heartbeat again. In American Zen circles, teachers like Jack Kornfield and Pema Chodron often talk about dropping the story. We think we're holding on to a person, a job, or a dream. But often we're holding on to the story we've told ourselves about it. And stories can be beautiful, but they can also trap us in chapters that have already ended. Science backs this up. Research on emotional resilience shows that those who practice acceptance and letting go report lower stress levels, better sleep, and stronger relationships. It's not magic. It's not denial. It's simply making peace with the fact that change is the only constant. Thich Nhat Hanh compared this to holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. When you loosen your hand, the grains rest gently in your palm. Life is the same way. We can't stop it from moving, but we can stop hurting ourselves by holding too tight. So maybe today, you can ask yourself, what am I still wrestling with? What would happen if I stopped? You might find that the moment you stop fighting, the current carries you somewhere softer than you imagined. We often think of acceptance and letting go as abstract ideas, something monks do on a mountaintop, far away from bills, deadlines, and traffic. But in truth, they're daily practices. They happen right here in the middle of ordinary life. One American Zen teacher I deeply respect, Sharon Salzberg, calls it the art of beginning again. You don't have to master acceptance in one dramatic moment. You simply notice again and again when you're clinging and you soften your grip. Think about the last time your plans were ruined. Maybe you were ready for a sunny weekend and instead woke up to rain. Maybe a job interview you'd been preparing for got canceled at the last minute. Your first reaction might have been frustration, maybe even anger. That's natural. But somewhere between that first wave of emotion and the rest of your day, you have a choice. You can stay tangled in the why me story, or you can say, all right, this is what's here. What now? Thich Nhat Hanh often guided his students to pause and breathe before reacting. When we are mindful, he said, we are not swept away by our feelings. It doesn't mean the feelings disappear. It means we learn to hold them gently, without letting them drag us into the past or future. In psychology, this is called cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt our thinking when reality shifts. People with high cognitive flexibility are less likely to get stuck in regret or resentment. They see new possibilities faster. In other words, they don't waste energy on doors that have already closed. Letting go isn't just about big heartbreaks or life changes. It can be as small as releasing the irritation when someone cuts you off in traffic, or the disappointment when your favorite cafe runs out of the muffin you wanted. Each time you let something minor pass without letting it ruin your mood, you're training your mind for the bigger moments. Jack Kornfield likes to tell a story about a monk who carried a heavy bag across a long field. When the monk finally set it down, he laughed and said, "Ah, that feels good." Kornfield's point was simple. Most of us are carrying invisible bags filled with grudges, regrets, and unmet expectations. The moment we put them down, even for a breath, we feel lighter. You can practice this anywhere. Next time something doesn't go as planned, notice your body, the tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest. Take 3 slow breaths. Imagine setting down a heavy backpack. You're not pretending the problem isn't there. You're just giving yourself space to respond from a calmer place. Acceptance and letting go are not about being passive. They're about choosing where your energy goes. And the more you practice in small ways, the more natural it becomes when life throws you something big. About love, we often imagine holding on. We promise forever. We guard what we have. We fear losing it. But strangely, the deepest love comes when we stop gripping so tightly. Letting go doesn't mean loving less. It means loving with more freedom. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free." That kind of love requires acceptance. It asks us to see people as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. I think of Michael, a friend who watched his daughter leave for college. For months before she moved out, he tried to control every detail, her choice of school, her classes, even the furniture in her dorm. "I just want her to be happy," he kept saying. But beneath that was fear. Fear that she'd make mistakes. Fear that she'd drift away. It was only when she hugged him goodbye and said, "Dad, I need to do this my way," that he realized what love really meant. It meant trusting her life to her. In relationships, romantic, family, or friendship, letting go often means loosening our need to be right, to be in control, or to be needed. In American Zen communities, teachers like Ezra Beta often talk about dropping expectations in relationships. When we expect someone to act or think a certain way, we're clinging to a version of them that might not exist anymore. Psychologists have found that relationships grounded in acceptance have higher satisfaction and less conflict. Partners who can accept differences instead of constantly trying to change each other build more resilience over time. This doesn't mean ignoring harmful behavior. It means recognizing what is yours to carry and what belongs to the other person. Letting go in love can also mean releasing the past. Maybe your partner hurt you once. Maybe a friend disappointed you. If you've chosen to stay, then clinging to that old hurt is like carrying a cracked glass in your pocket. Every step, it cuts you again. Forgiveness, in this sense, is a way of setting that glass down. Thich Nhat Hanh compared love to tending a garden. You don't pull on the flowers to make them grow faster. You water them, give them sunlight, and allow them to bloom in their own time. The beauty comes not from control, but from care without attachment. In practice, this could be as simple as listening without planning your reply, giving without expecting anything in return, or letting someone you love make a decision you wouldn't choose, and supporting them anyway. When we stop trying to hold on so tightly, love stops being a cage and becomes a space. And in that space, both we and the people we love can finally breathe. Iker has a way of knocking the air out of us. Whether it's losing a job, watching a business collapse, or simply falling short of a personal goal, the first instinct is often to push back, to replay the mistake, to search for the one thing we could have done differently. But in the middle of that storm, acceptance is the life raft. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that suffering is like mud, uncomfortable, messy, unavoidable. But without mud, there are no lotus flowers. In other words, failure can be the soil where growth happens if we stop fighting its existence. remember talking to Mark, a small business owner who poured his savings into a cafe that closed after just a year. I kept telling myself if I worked harder, I could save it, he told me. But all that did was burn me out. It wasn't until he accepted that the cafe was over that he could see what was next. A catering business that used his same skills, but with less overhead and more flexibility. American meditation teacher Tara Brach often speaks about radical acceptance, meeting the present moment exactly as it is, without judgment. This doesn't mean you approve of the failure, or that you stop trying. It means you stop wasting energy wishing things were different, and start asking, what can I do from here? Psychologists call this a growth mindset. People with this mindset don't see failure as a permanent label. They see it as information. A setback is not a verdict, it's feedback. This shift in perspective often leads to more creativity, better problem solving, and surprisingly, more resilience in the face of future challenges. Letting go plays a crucial role here. Holding on to the shame of failure is like wearing a heavy coat in the summer. It slows you down, it drains your energy, and it serves no purpose. Letting go doesn't erase what happened. It just allows you to move without the extra weight. In practical terms, you can practice this by naming what happened out loud without adding a story of self-blame. Instead of saying, I'm a failure, you say, that project failed. Then you pause. You breathe. You ask, what's the next small step I can take? Thich Nhat Hanh would remind his students that the present moment is always fresh. No matter how many times you've fallen, this moment, right now, is brand new. And in that space, you have the power to begin again. Failure will visit all of us. But with acceptance, we stop treating it like an enemy. And with letting go, we stop letting it define us. That's when we realize, losing something is not the same as losing ourselves. Greatest teacher of acceptance. When someone we love dies, or when a chapter of our life ends, the mind scrambles for a way to undo it. We replay old conversations, imagine different endings, cling to anything that feels like the person or the life we lost. But grief has its own rhythm, and acceptance is the only way we can walk with it without collapsing. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, when you love someone, they live on in you. He taught that the boundary between life and death is not as solid as we think. The people we love continue in our gestures, our memories, the lessons they gave us. Acceptance here doesn't mean we stop missing them. It means we stop fighting the fact that they are gone from this physical world and start honoring the ways they are still here in spirit. I once met a woman named Linda who lost her husband after 40 years together. For months, she kept his clothes in the closet exactly as he left them, unable to touch a single thing. I thought if I changed anything, it would mean I was letting him go, she said. But one afternoon, she took one of his old flannel shirts, held it close, and whispered, "You're still with me." She donated the rest. That was the day she realized letting go of the physical things didn't mean letting go of love. In American Zen traditions, teachers like Joan Halifax often speak about bearing witness to loss, being fully present with the pain instead of turning away or trying to speed through it. This witnessing is a form of compassion for ourselves. We allow the grief to exist without letting it harden into a permanent prison. Psychologists have found that grief is not something we get over. Instead, we integrate it into our lives. The loss becomes a thread in the fabric of who we are. Acceptance allows that thread to weave in without tearing the whole cloth. Letting go in grief can be as small as releasing the guilt of "I should have done more," or the fantasy of "if only I could change the past." It can be letting go of the belief that moving forward is a betrayal. In truth, moving forward is often the greatest tribute we can give. It's a way of carrying our loved one's light into the world. Thich Nhat Hanh would tell his students to look deeply into a cloud. One day, the cloud becomes rain. It's no longer in the sky, but it's still here, in the river, in the tea we drink, in the flowers that bloom. Our loved ones are like that cloud. They take new forms, and through acceptance and letting go, we can learn to see them everywhere. Grief will never vanish entirely, but when we meet it with an open heart, it becomes less of a weight we drag behind us and more of a companion that walks beside us, a reminder of the love that made it possible in the first place. The present moment is the only place life actually happens. Yet so much of our energy is spent somewhere else, regretting the past, worrying about the future, or resisting the reality that's right in front of us. Acceptance and letting go are the keys that unlock the door back to now. Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded his students the present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. But seeing it requires loosening our grip on what we think should be happening and opening ourselves to what is happening. I once joined a weekend retreat with American meditation teacher Jon Kabat-Zinn, founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction. He guided us through a simple exercise, eating a single raisin, slowly with full attention. At first, it felt silly, until I realized how rarely I give anything my complete presence. That raisin became an entire world of texture, sweetness, and memory. It was a reminder that life doesn't need to be extraordinary to be fully lived. It just needs our attention. When we resist the present, wishing we were somewhere else, with someone else, living some other version of our life, we are carrying the weight of two worlds, the one that is and the one we imagine. Acceptance puts down the imagined world so we can actually live in the real one. Science backs this up. Studies show that people who cultivate present moment awareness experience lower anxiety, less rumination, and greater overall happiness. It's not because their lives are perfect. It's because they're actually here for them. Letting go plays a vital role. To live in the present, we have to release our constant need to control the future and rewrite the past. It's like sailing. You can adjust the sails, but you can't control the wind. The more you accept the wind as it is, the smoother your journey becomes. You can practice this in everyday life. While drinking your morning coffee, pause and notice the warmth of the mug in your hands, the aroma rising with the steam. When walking to your car, feel the ground under your feet, the air on your skin. These small acts of presence are the building blocks of a more grounded life. Thich Nhat Hanh would often smile and say, "This moment is your life." We don't get a second chance to live it. When we accept it fully, the pleasant and the painful, and let go of what doesn't belong here, we step into a kind of freedom that's always been waiting for us. The truth is, the present moment doesn't need to be perfect to be enough. It only needs you to be here for it. If you'd like, acceptance and letting go are not single events. They are lifelong companions. Some days they walk quietly beside us, and other days they feel like mountains we can't climb. But with practice, they become less of a struggle and more of a rhythm, a way of meeting life as it comes, without losing ourselves in resistance or fear. Thich Nhat Hanh often compared life to the ocean. Some days are calm, some are full of waves, and some are storms that shake us to the core. We can't control the ocean, but we can learn to breathe, to float, and to trust that even the biggest waves will pass. In every part of life, love, work, loss, change, acceptance allows us to stop fighting reality, and letting go frees us to move forward. Together, they give us something rare, the ability to live lightly, even in a heavy world. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment to start. You can begin right now by noticing one thing you're still gripping and asking yourself, what would it feel like to set this down? You might discover that what's left in your hands is enough. The journey is not about becoming untouched by life. It's about becoming open enough to meet life as it is, and wise enough to know when to release what no longer serves you. As Jack Kornfield said, the heart is like a garden. It can grow compassion or fear, resentment or love. What seeds will you plant today? If you found peace, insight, or comfort in these words, I invite you to join us at Mindfulness, a space for shared reflection, gentle practices, and conversations inspired by the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh and other great teachers. Here we walk together toward a life of presence, compassion, and freedom. Because when we accept and let go, we're not losing anything. We're making room for everything that truly matters.